Let's now bring in House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Virginia Republican Congressman Bob Goodlatte. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Maria, it's great to be with you.
What can you tell us about this process and what's going on? How do you see things?
Well, I think that Chairman Grassley has bent over backwards to make sure that these very serious allegations give the woman making the charges, Ms. Ford, an opportunity to come and testify. In fact, he's offered her about 4 different ways to go about doing that. I think if she is serious about these charges, she needs to come and testify. So I'm glad there's at least a tentative agreement. But we can't have a situation where very legitimate nominees for very important government positions have charges placed against them at the very last minute, and then they're used as a delaying tactic to try to derail the nomination. That is simply inappropriate. The Democrats on the committee are clearly doing that. So I think he's handled it well, but I think he's also right to say either come and testify at the time appointed or we need to go ahead with our vote.
But, Mr. Chairman, isn't that exactly what you're faced with, frankly? I mean, that's what's going on. I mean, if Ms. Ford continues to come up with new demands and pushing it back, then they're victorious. Then they are delaying the vote as much as possible and trying hard to kill it.
Well, there are a great many people who think that's exactly what's going on. But again, these are serious allegations, and Judge Kavanaugh has been vehement in his denial of the charges. So they both need to have the opportunity to speak their piece on the issue. And if she's not going to press the allegation with her own testimony, then I think they have to go ahead with the vote.
Do you feel that there will be do you have the votes in the Senate?
Well, I believe that the votes are there, but I also think it's very important that everyone who votes on this feels like there has been a fair process offered so that these last-minute charges can be properly aired. And let me also say this most recent demand by her attorneys that Judge Kavanaugh goes first just defies all important precedent in matters like this. She has not testified. We have not even seen, to my knowledge, the letter that she sent to Senator Feinstein that Senator Feinstein sat on for 2 months. But now he's expected to come forward and deny allegations that she hasn't even made in any formal fashion at this point. I think that's entirely inappropriate. She needs to come forward. She needs to offer her testimony, and then he needs to have the opportunity to testify and tell what he knows, if anything, about this whole incident, other than his clear and outright denial that it ever took place.
Well, you're right. I mean, the last time I checked, that's the way America works. You are innocent until proven guilty, and she's making the accusations. It seems weird to have him go first if she's the one making the charges. But we'll see where that goes. If she does not testify on Thursday, do you believe the Senate will hold the vote?
I think they should go forward with the vote. I think that would be a very clear indication that the only thing on the table is an outstanding record on the part of a very experienced judge, perhaps one of the most qualified nominees ever for the United States Supreme Court. And this last-minute charge, not even pressed by the person alleging it, would, I think, call for a vote and a confirmation of Judge Kavanaugh.
All right, Mr. Chairman, let me move on to another incredibly explosive story, and that is, of course, about Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General. My question here is, I don't understand how Rod Rosenstein could convene a meeting with other Justice Department officials and the president, convince the president to walk back declassifying documents, and then we learned that he was willing to wear a wire and invoke the 25th Amendment to take down President Trump. He also, we know, okayed the final FISA warrant, which we know was based on unverified information. How is Rod Rosenstein leading and able to do this? How is the president even listening to him post all of this?
Well, I can't answer for the president, but I can say this, that I have told the president that I think it is very, very important that the American people get access to the information that underlies all of this. So several things. First of all, the president should move forward expeditiously. We do have to make sure that sources and methods for classified information are not revealed, but that can be done, and it can be done expeditiously, particularly with regard to this information where an awful lot of it is already out in the news media. But key points that we do not have the clear final input on are in documents that we need to have declassified. So the president should continue to press for that and should press for it to be done as quickly as possible. Secondly, we have been very, very concerned about the lack of production of some documents. We've gotten a lot of documents, access to more than 1 million documents from the Department of Justice, but some key documents, including the so-called McCabe memos, which could very directly bear upon this question of what was Rod Rosenstein doing in that meeting immediately prior to the appointment of Robert Mueller as the special counsel, and are these allegations that are in the New York Times actually true? I think that can be, a lot of light can be shed on that if the documents we've been requesting for quite some time are made public. So as a result of that, this week, if they're not produced by tomorrow or Tuesday, this week, we are going to issue a subpoena to the Justice Department that expands upon the subpoena we issued earlier this year and includes the McCabe memos and some other documents that have been requested by us but thus far not produced, including Peter Strzok's personnel file, some of the Strzok page texts, the Bruce Orr 301, and some other things. Now, some of these may be declassified in this process with the president, but whether they are or not, the Congress is entitled to see them unredacted, and they're entitled to see them right now. And it's especially important now that this new crisis of confidence has arisen in the conduct of Mr. Rosenstein, but most importantly, because we want to get to the bottom of how this investigation was ever launched in the first place, way back in the first half of 2016 during the presidential election.
Right, and we know that it wasn't based on any official intelligence. We've gone through this for the last year between you, your colleagues in Congress, Devin Nunes, John Ratcliffe, Trey Gowdy. We know that it was based on nothing. But I guess my question here is, in terms of next week and the potential subpoena, with all due respect, sir, you've been asking for lots of documents for a long time. Do you have any confidence that you're actually going to get the McCabe memos or these documents that you want? Are you willing to go all the way if, in fact, you subpoena those documents and you still don't get them? How is there accountability?
Yes, we are going to persist in this, and we have obtained a very substantial amount of information. Our understanding of what was going on in 2016 and into 2017 is greatly enhanced because of compliance by the Department of Justice and the FBI with our earlier subpoena. There are still issues outstanding, and this relatively new request with regard to the McCabe memos must be resolved. Right. But I have every confidence that it will occur because I know, for example, that the President of the United States wants the American people to know what was going on, and also to see the contrast between how the FBI bent over backwards to afford every opportunity to not prosecute Hillary Clinton, and at the same time, in the same manner, leaned in ways that are inexplicable other than for political motivation to launch an investigation without having any meaningful evidence that there was a basis for launching the investigation into the so-called Trump-Russia collusion, which now, more than 2 years later, we still see no evidence of such a thing.
It's quite extraordinary, and I have to say, I didn't believe it from the moment it started. The president tweeted this yesterday. He says, I met with the DOJ concerning the declassification of various unredacted documents. They agreed to release them, but stated that so doing may have perceived negative impact on the Russia probe. Also, key allies called to ask not to release. Therefore, the Inspector General has been asked to review these documents on an expedited basis. I believe he will move quickly on this and hopefully other things which he is looking at. In the end, I can always declassify if it proves necessary. Speed is very important to me and everyone.